Good morning, guys. Welcome back to another video here. It's November the 10th, and let me tell you, it is a cool and crispy morning this morning. It's about 25 degrees with about a 15-mile-an-hour wind cutting right across my face. Not coming and hit me straight in the nose, cutting right across my face, which is a perfect wind for hunting big deer. Now, the rut is in full bore. I mean, this past week, it's a Friday. I took out of school today so I could be up in the stand, because this time of year you just got to be in the stand. You have to put in your seat time. But this week, coming on the way to school, on the way home from school, when I was home, I saw deer chasing does. My dad saw deer chasing does. Mature deer, not little bucks, mature deer chasing does. So, where I'm set up today is where I'm sitting. Where I'm set up today is where I sat last year during opening shotgun weekend, which normally would be this weekend, but they moved it back a week, which I had no problem with, because that keeps people out of the woods. But where I'm set up today is there's kind of this four ridge system. Basically, the fourth ridge the furthest ridge that way is a food plot. Then the middle ridge is kind of an oak ridge. Then you got this ridge where it's kind of an oak ridge, and then that back ridge back there is where they start getting into their bedding. And basically why I'm set up in this area and what makes it so good is these deer, these does that are living on our property, eating our food plots, eating our acorns, these bucks come to chase them, and these does want to get to thick because they don't want to be pestered by these bucks. So these does, we saw this happen last year. We had 4 big bucks chasing one doe back here, over here in the food plot. That doe made her way all the way up the ridge, down the ridge, all the way back here, ended up running about 5 yards underneath our stand, back up into the thick part. Those bucks chasing her were big mature bucks too. We just couldn't stop them and get a shot. So this morning we're set up in the same spot. We got the food over here, cover back behind me. We're kind of in this little corridor area, kind of in between their little staging area. Got the wind blowing, hitting us right in the nose, like I said, blowing right back up into this bedding area. We can spray out some doe estrus to cover our scent and hopefully bring in a buck. And we're going to definitely be doing some grunting this morning. It should be a good morning. I'm excited. And hopefully we can get a big buck on the ground. My dad's sitting over in the food plot, so he's kind of on the food, and I'm kind of on the bedding. Kind of a little bit of both, so we're both just going to chill here this morning. Looking at maybe sitting all day, depending on how good the action is, and these deer should be moving. It's a clear, crisp morning, nice and cold. These deer should be up on their feet. That was kind of a cool encounter there. saw a body moving over here in the thick part. Started grunting a couple times. Then I saw another one. Saw it had a rack, and it ended up being two small bucks that came out. One ended up going that way. The other one came right in on a line. And when he got about even with me, he kind of stopped and kind of acted kind of weird. And I think it might have been because my dad texted me and said he saw a buck, a small 8-point over here. So it might have been because my dad, might have been because that buck, he might have saw it. It's been a pretty good morning so far. I'd just like to see some more deer. And I think these deer are moving. These deer are definitely moving, which is a really good sign. But one thing I will say is this self-filming kind of deal, it's not the easiest. You know, because especially when they come in on your left, because you got your camera. I got my camera set up on my right, and I gotta film across my body, and it's kind of difficult sometimes. But you know what I'm really looking for? What I'm looking to shoot is a buck that's rack is even with his ear tips, or just outside his ears, or a monster. Oh, here comes another deer. Here comes another deer. Here comes another deer.
Meh. Meh.
Dude, that. I'm so sick right now. It's been about 10 minutes since the shot, 10-15 minutes since the shot, and I've kind of had a minute to cool down and think about what occurred in that 2 to 3 minute period. You know, I had just stood up and sprayed some buck bomb, and then right when I put it back in my bag, I happened to look up. I happened to be facing back this way behind me, and I happened to look up and see a buck walking. I didn't know it was a buck at first, but I just knew it had a massive body, and then I saw its rack. And it ended up dropping down on its bottom and getting up on this next ridge over and coming on this trail that is 45 yards. And I ended up ranging where I anticipated him to walk, and it was 45 yards, which is perfect. I got a 45-yard pin. So I tried to get the camera on him. The camera didn't get on him very well. I mean, it was one of those things where I'm sucking in my gut, trying to get the camera pushed all the way around to get to the hole, and then I got to get the gun up, or the crossbow up. And so what happened is that buck was, I'm gonna call him a 5.5-year-old, because that buck was at very ball minimum 4.5. I believe he was a good 5.5-year-old, and I believe it's a buck we have on camera about 150 yards this way in our food plot, because it was a big rack. He was a 10-point. I thought he was 8-point at first, but now I think about it, he was a 10-point, and he had double crab claws on both sides. And we got a buck in a food plot over here. I'll put a picture up right now. You know, he's by far, he's not the biggest deer on the earth, but he's a great deer. I mean, he would have been my biggest deer by triple, quadruple. And I want you guys to help me name him. You know, we got pictures of him bedded down in our food plot like you saw. I just missed him. Help me come up with a name with this deer, because I don't want to name him Crab Claw, because we already got a deer named Crab Claw. But help me come up with a name for this deer. He's a 5.5-year-old 10-point with double crab claws. You know, you don't want to miss deer, but if you gotta miss, that's how you want to do it. A clean miss so they don't get injured. But it's still sickening. Still sickening. That's a big deer, dude. That's why you sit all day right there. Way too far. Well, today has been a sort of productive and sort of unproductive day. This morning wasn't the best. We only saw probably 3 or 4 deer, or probably around 4 deer, and then about 2 o'clock, those deer, that buck came through chasing the doe with that bigger buck following it. I had a limb hanging right here that I couldn't get a shot through, which kind of sucks. I guess he was 25 yards, but I cut that limb off. And then probably 30 minutes later, which was about 30 or 40 minutes later, which was probably about 10 minutes ago, I heard something running up here. It ended up being a coyote. It ended up seeing me, or looking up here and seeing something about 30 yards out, so it started to go around. I ranged the spot that it was going to. It said about 55 yards, so I used my 55-yard pin. And I missed him by probably about 1.5 feet. A foot. I was shooting through some limbs, but I missed him by probably about a foot. And he jumped